Newly unsealed court documents in the Bryan Kohberger case shed light on two FBI lab reports, and what's most surprising is not what they found, but what they didn't. Let's break it down. Both the prosecution and defense agreed to admit two FBI lab reports into evidence. This is called a stipulated motion. Basically, both sides said, "We're okay with the jury seeing these report." Exhibit D-1062, Lab Report 4, January 2023. The FBI tested hairs and fibers from the victims, their clothing, the King Roadhouse, Kohberger's apartment, and even his own hair samples. Results: no hair from Kohberger were found on the victims or at the crime scene. No victim hairs were found in Kohberger's apartment. Dog hairs were tested. None matched Kaylee's dog, Murphy. A single cat hair was kept for possible testing later, but it wasn't conclusive. This report suggests no trace evidence links Kohberger directly to the victims or house. Exhibit D-1063, Lab Report 12, February 2023. This one focused on Kohberger's mantra and some clothing from his residence. What were the test results? Microscopic examination of hairs is accomplished by using stereomicroscopy and comparison microscopy. The presence or absence, appearance, arrangement, and distribution of the characteristics within the cuticle, cortex, and medulla of the hairs are examined and may be compared during a hair examination. Items from Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, Zana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and the 1122 King Road location were examined for hairs matching Bryan Christopher Kohberger's head hair sample. No matches were found. Items from Northeast Valley Road, apartment G201, were examined for hairs matching the victim's head hair samples. No matches were found. Then there is the animal hair analysis. Dog hairs found in item 61 did not match the dog hair sample from Murphy, so Murphy was excluded as a source. A cat hair found in item 26 was deemed of limited value for comparison, but preserved for future analysis. Debris preservation. Additional debris from various items has been preserved for potential future comparisons. Examinations. Hairs were analyzed using stereomicroscopy and comparison microscopy to determine their origin, human or animal, and characteristics like ancestry and body area. Page 5 explains. The selected text explains the process and limitations of microscopic hair and fiber analysis, classified by ancestral group and body area based on macroscopic and microscopic characteristics. A hair's ancestral classification may not always match an individual's physical appearance or self-identified race/ethnicity. Hair comparisons can suggest a possible source but cannot provide personal identification or determine the number of potential sources. In summary, hair and fiber analysis can suggest associations but cannot definitively identify individuals or items due to various limitations. Now, for the unredacted pages 1 to 5 if the FBI report. Page 1 states item 2.5, 7, 11, and 44 were all head hair samples from the victims and Murphy. Item 65 is the headrest from the Elantra. The other samples, 66 to 75, are all from Bryan Kohberger's vehicle. Items 76 to 80 consist of clothing obtained from 119 Lambsden Drive. Page 3 of 5, the results of the examination. Items submitted from the 2015 Hyundai Elantra, items 65 through 75, and from 119 Lambsden Drive, items 76 through 80, were examined for hairs microscopically consistent with hairs in the head hair samples from Ethan Chapin, item 2, Kaylee Goncalves, item 5, Kernodle, item 7, and Madison Mogan, item 11. However, none were found. Animal hairs consistent with dog hairs found in or on are microscopically dissimilar to hairs in the dog hair Y, item 44. Accordingly, based on the item 44 hair sample, Murphy wasn't a source. Additional debris from items 65, 67, and 80 has been reserved for possible future comparisons in the Elantra or his clothes. Dog hairs were found in the car and clothing, but again, not from Murphy. Extra debris was stored for possible future test. Once again, no forensic tie between Kohberger's car and the victims. Why were these reports redacted before? To protect sensitive victim details like clothing and personal items, to prevent the public from speculating on incomplete forensic testing, to avoid exposing investigative weaknesses too early. So what did that mean for the case? These reports actually could have been an asset to the defense, since the FBI found no trace evidence linking Kohberger to the victims or crime scene. But remember, lack of evidence doesn't always mean lack of involvement. Trace evidence can be lost, destroyed, or never transferred. So, while prosecutors were relying on DNA and circumstantial evidence against their case, just as much as what's there, what do you think? Is the absence of forensic evidence enough to raise reasonable doubt? Let's talk